Today we want to talk about the Central Bank of Kenya. The CBK is the sole authorized entity that is allowed to print money in Kenya. Now, last week, in April, the first week of April, there was a suggestion made that the CBK should increase and start printing money in huge quantities. Now, this is the story behind that story, and these are the implications of that story. Now, as you very well know, the Kenya government is controlled from outside. It's controlled from London and Washington. So the instructions apparently that they've received is that they should start printing money, huge amounts of money. And so it was being suggested, and it came on the news, that that is what they should do. Like, they are pushing for that. Now, why would they want to do that? Why are they being given instructions from Washington and London to increase the money supply? This is the idea. The idea is to basically collapse the economy and to bankrupt most of the people living within that economy. Because when you look at what is happening in the United States, and I hate talking about the United States, but in this situation, it's completely relevant because that's where the instructions are coming from. And the elite of Kenya has sold Kenya out. You know this, right? Now, so what's happening in America is this. They are printing vast amounts of money, huge amounts of money. And they're arguing that they will not suffer from inflation, which may be true because a lot of the money is picked up by other countries. But historical trends show that sooner or later, maybe within 5 years, there will be a crash. There has to be a crash. Now, why are they doing that in the United States? What's the big idea behind that? Well, the big idea is to launch a digital dollar, to coerce the population to abandon the physical notes in exchange for a digital dollar. They want to move the whole world into digital currency for whatever reason. So basically, that's the stated agenda. Okay, now they have to push also African countries in that direction. Now, the African countries are run by their clients. And as you very well know, Kenya is one of those countries. Kenya is one of the anchor countries that is used to push the rest of the region. So if you can subvert Kenya and South Africa and Nigeria, you can move the regions that are there, where they're influential in a particular direction. So for better or for worse, Kenya is one of those countries. So Kenya becomes almost like the pilot. So the idea is to push a digital currency also in Kenya. And so the way they're trying to do it is to create basically an economic crisis. So they started using this outbreak of disease to cause the government to shut down parts of the economy. And true to form, Jubilee was very quick to shut down significant parts of the economy. They shut down the counties that are most economically vibrant. They didn't shut down Mandera, but they did shut down Nairobi. And this will have huge implications. You may not feel the effects right now. You may probably feel the effects in 3 years. So this is basically, they are deliberately, destroying the economy and destroying your incomes. This is very intentional. You have to create a crisis. Even when there is no crisis, you create a crisis in order to ride on that crisis to enact changes that people would never accept otherwise. So basically, look at this as warfare, as biological warfare. Don't look at it like a disease. Think of it like we are in the midst of a war. Okay? And the aims of the war, because all the people who start wars have particular aims. So the aim of this war is to push for digital currency, to move populations away from paper and notes, which you really can't control very well into a digital format which can be controlled very easily. So that is the overall war aims in this biological war that we are in. And it's going to continue for maybe one more year, or until they feel that they have achieved their war aims. So Kenya has been recruited to be part of that agenda. Or rather, I should not say Kenya, I should say the elites or Jubilee. And because you very well know that the elites of Kenya act in accordance to what the Mzungu tells them. They represent the Mzungu in Kenya. They don't represent us at all. They don't act in our interests. They act in the interests of the foreigners all the time, strictly. Any decision they make, you can be sure it's coming from a foreign capital. It's not them thinking for themselves. They are following instructions from someone. So as long as you understand that. So let's come back to monetary policy in Kenya. So there's something that they use complicated words in order to scare you not to look into what they're trying to do. So there's something that's called quantitative easing. That's just a difficult way of saying printing money. So in October of 2020, the government printed like 15 billion in 1 week. And when you say printed, we are not really meaning that they ran the printing press. No, we simply mean they created 15 billion out of thin air. Like the CBK deposited 15 billion in the account of the government from thin air. Now, this is very dangerous, as you can imagine. If you're turning air into value, you know that's very tempting to continue turning even more air into value, and eventually the system catches up with you, because every single piece of currency must be backed up by production. You can't just print money out of thin air. The good news is this, that the Constitution protects us from this sort of manipulations and shenanigans that the elite is trying to do. So legally, the government is only allowed to print 5% of audited gross recurrent revenue. So they can't go more than 5%. So that's a good thing. And so, and that worries me when you think of that they're trying to change the Constitution. I mean, this may be part of the reason why they're trying to change the Constitution, because it blocks them from overprinting money. Now, the instructions from the foreign masters is to print as much money as possible. But the Constitution blocks them from printing money as their instructions are. So I guess that's why they're trying to change the Constitution, amongst other reasons. Now let us examine what the game is. What game is being played. Now, if you get an excess of increase in money supply, basically that's the same as, when they printed the 15 billion, basically that was counterfeiting money. That the government itself is counterfeiting money, which means the money loses value. It's like the government issuing fake money because it's not backed up by any production. So you may want to think very carefully whether you want to continue holding on to actual currency. If you can buy gold, buy gold. If you can buy silver, buy silver. But unfortunately, for us in Kenya, the law says that Africans are not allowed to possess gold. So maybe you may have to go to, maybe you may have to go to Dubai and actually buy gold and bring it back to Kenya. But the problem is, if you do that, they'll catch you at the airport because the law says Africans are not allowed to possess gold. Can you believe that? That is the actual law, and Jubilee passed it in 2016. And many of you said nothing. You didn't protest, you didn't complain. And so if you're stuck with shillings and they are trying to print counterfeit shillings, it means that the value of your shillings will go down. That's the danger you run when you're holding this paper currency. So you need something like gold, but it's illegal for you to possess gold. Now, so what you're seeing globally is is some of these countries that they're pushing the digital currencies. You can clearly see it's a consolidation of wealth by the super rich people, because as they print more and more dollars, the dollar will lose value eventually, and all those people who are holding dollars, especially in the United States, a lot of them run the risk of actually filing bankruptcy, because if the money is losing value, it means your debts multiply to the same extent that the money is losing value. Because if $100 could buy, for example, just an example, could buy 10 liters of petrol, and then the same $100 can only buy 2 liters of petrol, you've just lost 8 liters of petrol, right? So you're losing wealth, you're losing real income. The paper money is still the same amount, but the real value is going lower and lower and lower. And so that allows the rich people to buy up all sorts of assets. And I guess that's what they're trying to do in Kenya, in order to really push the population into a corner, so that they can now, after that, tell you that the only way to escape from unstable currency is for you to accept the digital currency. And now the overall plan, if you didn't know, is this, is to take that is if they succeed, okay? This is the overall plan, to take that digital currency, tie it to your Huduma number, and then tie your vaccination record into that Huduma number, and then force everyone to get the Huduma number. And Jubilee some time ago announced that they want children as young as 6 years old to have a Huduma number. Why does a child of 6 years need a Huduma number? So that they can tie the vaccination record of that child to that number, so that they can be blocked from going to school if they refuse to be injected. That is the overall plan. So, as far as I'm able to establish, this elite that rules over Kenya, basically it's a satanic, wicked elite, because that is what they are trying to do. Why are they doing this? They are under instructions by Mzungu to do this. Why do they want to inject every single child with a chemical? What is inside the chemical? It's always the same thing. We always have to go back to the same thing. So this, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute. So all this financial manipulation that they're trying to do to collapse the currency is all about getting the population, getting you people to accept that Huduma number. They need to force you to accept it. And also they need to force you to make your child accept it, so that they cannot go to school without it. They'll try to sell it to you as if it's a very good thing. But that is the overall plan. So what does the Mzungu want, really? In pushing for all these things that the sellout elite is implementing in Kenya, what does the Mzungu really, really want? What's the issue? The issue is always the same. This is about power. Demography is destiny. Countries rise and fall according to the number of people who live inside that country. Now, this is the issue. Now, understand this very clearly. We are reaching the end of an era. As you very well know, America will be exceeded by China in 5 to 10 years' time. And we will have a new global superpower. And it will not be a Mzungu superpower. And for the first time in 500 years, the Mzungu will no longer be in power over the earth. Now, now their population projections are very shocking for them, because they're projecting that in 25 years, if all factors remaining constant, Africa will have 2.2 billion people minimum. Western Europe will have about 300 million native Europeans. The United States will have about 140 million people who are Europeans. You understand? The populations of all these places will remain the same, but the number of Europeans as a proportion of those populations will decline. Now, this is very worrisome for them, because if you're dealing with a Europe that has 300 million Europeans, and I mean Western Europe, and you have an Africa that has 2.5 billion people, who has more power? It's clear that Africa will be poised to become the next superpower through sheer numbers of people. For example, right now, and I've used this example before, and I like using it, Kinshasa has 13 million people. It is projected that over the same period of time, it will have like 25 million people, one city, or even more, just one city. And you remember in 2008, when the economies of Western Europe were affected by the crash that happened, there were refugees from Portugal going to Angola. Like there was illegal immigration into Angola from Portugal. That Portuguese were running away to Angola to open kiosks and to do manual labor because they were starving in Portugal. And that was so shocking to those countries that they immediately started printing money in order to end that crisis. Because they could see that power was changing. That it is them who are now becoming refugees. And Africa remained untouched by that crisis. You remember, we were not touched at all. Now, that is what scares them the most. The Mzungu is terrified of that. The idea that Africa will end up becoming a superpower. And one of the things that terrifies them is that they are fully convinced that we will retaliate for all the things they've done to us. Because if we are 2.5 billion and they are 300 million, anything can be done to you. And they do not want to lose that position of global dominance. So the only solution that they can see is to stop population growth in Africa. That's why they keep on saying that they use the language we. We have a narrow window of opportunity. When they say we, they're not talking about you. They're talking about themselves. And the narrow window of opportunity is the time left with America being dominant on the earth. And once America is eclipsed by someone else, that window of opportunity is gone. Because right now they know America is very influential. And so they're trying to ride it to push us to accept that chemical. And they have their clients in the elites of Africa, such as the Kenyan elite that has sold itself to them. And they want the children. They don't care much about the adults. They want the children to accept that chemical. And they want to tie you with that Huduma card. So that if you don't take your child to be given the chemical, your child cannot go to school. So that every time they go to school, they have to scan that card, which shows whether they've been given the chemical or not, so that you can't escape. And once the child is injected with that chemical, we all know that it has an effect of preventing the fertilized egg from attaching itself to the walls of the womb, which means it acts against pregnancy. So basically, this is supposed to be the final African generation. If the plan goes through, this will be our final generation. So that in the next 30 years, instead of us becoming 2.5 billion people in Africa, the population will collapse back to about 300 million or 400 million. And at that point, the Chinese will be able to move about another 300 million into Africa, which is why they are financing all this infrastructure. It's not really for us. It's for themselves. It's for the people that they'll push into Africa starting around 2045. So going forward from 2045, they want to flood about 300 million people into Africa because they're demanding a free hand in Africa. Just the same way the Europeans got North and South America, the Chinese are saying that Africa is theirs to expand into. And so this is what Jubilee is working on. Jubilee is literally, the Kenyan elite is literally working to eliminate us. Can you imagine? And most of you, so that's why I'm afraid that they'll succeed, because most of you support these measures that are there to eliminate you. So basically you are your own worst enemy. And this is the tragedy of Africa. So all this talk about printing money, you need to know what the end goal is. And you need to understand that every single decision that is made by Jubilee and by the Kenyan elite, not exclusively Jubilee. I'm just saying Jubilee because they have power in Kenya. Even if you replace them, it will make no difference. Because all the elite in Kenya are the same group of people. And they've all sold their souls. And they all act in concert for the interests of the West. So you need to understand the end game so that everything that they are doing now, you can interpret it correctly so that you don't get confused as to the policies that they are pursuing. It's always the same thing. Don't forget that. It is always the same thing. They have to stop Africa's population from becoming 2.5 billion. They are doing everything. This is like the last ditch, most desperate attempt to accomplish that. You need to understand that. This is it. If they can successfully pull this off, get your child to accept that chemical. This is our last generation. And personally, I'm afraid they will succeed. Why? Because I know you. I know you're brainwashed. I know whatever Mzungu tells you to do, you do it. He tells you, bring your child, line up all your children. We have a free gift for them. We have a chemical for them. You will immediately line up your children. You will not ask a single question. So, I'm afraid that the intellectual challenged people of Kenya will be the last generation. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Kenya's time has come. Our time has come. Your time has come. A time to succeed and not fail. A time to grow wealth and not poverty. A time to go up and not down. It's time for you to stop walking and drive your car. Stop renting and buy yourself a house. It's your time to get blessed. Join the ChaChaVi movement and together let us kick poverty and unemployment out of Kenya. Become a member today. Donate what you can. And remember that the ChaChaVi is the only political organization in Kenya that is squarely built upon Christian values, unlike the rest. We'll see you next time. Thank you.